Hey everyone, my name is Chris, and I'm going to start this new channel to give out some tips and tricks for technology and photo editing and photography. Now, I've been a big user of Photoshop on the desktop, and I'll post my Instagram links in the comments below if you want to check them out. About a month ago, Photoshop released the iPad version, so I was pretty excited to be able to edit photos on the go, and I thought I would give out some tips and tricks that I've discovered over the last few days of using it. Now, for those who don't know, they said it would be a full version of Photoshop, but it's not. It's pretty close, and it's not too bad. The usage I've been having of it's been pretty good. Now, you can download it from the Apple Store, or if you have the Adobe Creative Cloud membership, like I do, you can download it from there. And here it is on the iPad Air 3. So we'll go ahead and launch it, and I'll go through some overviews of what you can expect. When you launch it, it takes you to your main screen where you can see all your cloud Photoshop documents here. You can create a new one, import if you have one on your cloud. So let's go ahead and just create a new one here. It'll take you to the new document screen where you can select your Photoshop's file size. You can rename it, so we'll just rename it here. I am using an Apple Pencil, which I highly recommend using. So we're going to do a little composite here of just a couple of quick what you can expect out of Photoshop. Here you'll set your resolution, your color space, and size. Your background content if you want to make it transparent, black or white. I'm going to go ahead and just hit create. Here we'll take you to your main page. Well, let's go over what you can expect to see here. Starting with the menu options here on the left, we have our home screen here at the top. They'll take you back to that page we were just at. Right below that you have your move tool. Here you can move your layer options. Up here we have our undo, redo, cloud options. Here is your resizing tool. So you can rotate it, skew it, distort it, perspective. There is no warp tool yet. But here you can see your transform settings. Hit cancel. Here are your selection tools. You have your lasso, your rectangular marquee tools. Your tool settings here are in this submenu with 3 dots where you set your feather. Underneath that you have your brush tool. Here you would change the colors, the size of your brush, the opacity of your brush, and the hardness and softness of your brush. The 3 little dots here will bring out your brush settings for your blend modes, your roughness, your roundness, angles and stuff. If you are using an Apple Pencil like me, you can set your pressure size for either the size or the opacity. Now here's something that took me a second to figure out. To change the colors, I thought you would just press on each one, but you actually have to roll it over. So you just press and hold it to rotate your colors. Below the brush you have your eraser. You have your eraser settings, your angle, your flow, opacity, and size are in here. Now let's take you back to brush settings to give you a little tip trick. You can see all of the shortcuts here in your menus. So if we go back to brush, you have this touch icon down here where you can have a shortcut. So let's say you are brushing here and you want to erase. Instead of going to the eraser tool, you can actually press this second touch button here and you'll see where it says erase. And now if you roll it back out for your second view, you'll see an eyedropper. So inside here you have brush, eraser, and eyedropper. So if you wanted to erase that, there you go. Okay, so then below the eraser tool you have your paint bucket, along with, if you press and long hold, you'll have your gradient tool. So you can add all of your gradients here. Below that option you'll have your spot healing brush. And again, with the spot healing brush you have your size, your hardness, and softness. And in your sub-menu with the 3 dots, you can set it to sample all the layers and use your pressure for size if you have a Apple Pencil. Now if you long hold this, it'll take you to your clone tool. The clone tool here, you have all the same settings you would have in all the other ones. Your 3 dots will be to sample all layers, and use pressure. To sample an area, use your one touch. So you'd select here and you would get your sample area. So we sample the green or the orange over here. And you can see over here that we're doing that. Now if we change the size, sample this area here, and there's your clone. You can see the crosshairs of the area you are sampling. Below your healing brush and your crop tool, or clone tool, you have your crop tool. So you can come in here and crop the size if you wish. Below that you have your text tool. Below that you have your importing option. We'll go over that in 1 second. And then below that you have your eyedropper. And then your paint samples here. Now on the right, we have a couple flyout menus. Let me move this over here. We have, over here on the right, we have your layers. So you'll get just a quick view of the layers down here. Or you can have your layers panel out completely using this option. This here will get you your layer properties on a flyout. You can move it up and down as you wish. Inside layer properties, you change your opacity, your blend modes, and your clipped adjustments, which we'll go over. Starting here at the bottom, you'll have the layer property options, or layer actions. So you can delete it, rename it, copy it. Here is your filters and adjustments where you can put a Gaussian, blur or invert the colors or the mask if you have a mask. Here is your layer mask. So we'll have our options out here, our layer panels out, and here's the layer mask that we've added. Here's where you would lock your layer or unlock your layer. Here's the eye tool to turn layer visibility on or off. And then here is a quick press of this will get you a new layer. If you press and hold, you get new layer options for new layer, adjustment layer, or a group if you wanted to add items to a group. So I wanted to show you how you can make a quick composite. So to do that, let's just start over here with we'll undo everything back to just a blank layer. And let's go ahead and hide layers panel. So to import your images, you'll just click the little icon right here, and it'll give you the options for a camera roll, a file, library, or you can actually take a picture. So we'll go ahead and import a couple pictures from my camera roll. And I have in here, I just created a quick album where we'll go ahead and import 2 images that I took on 2 recent trips. So here's a quick picture of Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. So we'll actually just make it a little bit bigger, about to there. I'll click done, and then we'll import one more picture here. This is just a picture of my friend's little girl just walking on a sidewalk. So we're going to make this a little bit smaller. And we're going to probably actually make it a little bigger here. And we'll put it right there for now. Now if you wanted to see the layer underneath, you could have your layer pop-out panel here and your layer properties and change your opacity to kind of see where you're at. To zoom in, just use your fingers. And to move it around, use your fingers. Now, if you wanted to change your blend mode to any of the options here, you could. We'll leave it at normal. Okay, so now what we're going to do is create a layer mask. So we'll add a little quick mask here, and then here you have your layer mask options. We have a brush. If you wanted to invert the layer, you can go down here. I'm sorry, right here, and invert. And now you have black to completely cover it. We'll actually undo that. So I just want to make a quick composite. We'll have the sidewalk here and the kid hanging out here on the beach. So let's just get a quick brush here. We'll make our brush size quite big, and we'll make the softness. And we're just gonna paint with black. Just to start exposing the background. Now again, I just want to have the sidewalk and the kids, so we're going to get rid of some of this grass area and some of the grass area over here. And if we wanted to move, we can move that up here. If we wanted to change the size of it, you could do any of that here. You have other options of resizing it. Now we're not going to get too much into that. I'm assuming that if you're watching this, you know how to use the sizing. Okay, so now we want to blend it a little bit better here. If we wanted to add a adjustments layer, we get our layer properties out here. With the top layer selected, you double tap, you can rename it, so we'll name it sidewalk. And we can add an adjustment layer. If you wanted to add a levels adjustment, for example, you can do that here. And if you'll notice, it is clipped to the layer below. And that means it's only going to affect this one layer. So if we wanted it dark, the midtones, the highlights. Or if you wanted to add a exposure, you can do that here. Or if you wanted to add a color adjustment, you can do that here. Okay. Now let's go over all the other tools. Let's actually move this back here and just put it in place here. We're not going to do a full composite here, but just wanted to show you what you could do. Resize it a little bit more. Now if you find any of these people over here distracting, you can hide the layer visibility here. Get yourself a new layer here and we'll say it's the clone layer. And you can remove any of these people if you wanted to, or this log. Let's say you didn't like this log here. You can try with your spot healing brush and just paint right over that log. And I have a really soft edge. Now I didn't do a very good job, so if you didn't like that, you could use the clone tool. Change the size of our clone tool. Let's just sample this area right here. And that removed the log pretty well. So just off, on. And let's say you wanted to add a adjustment layer to this layer. You'd highlight the layer. This is just the bridge layer. And we'll add a adjustment layer to this in our layer properties. We'll add a brightness and contrast layer. If you want to adjust that and some brightness. Now, if you don't like the background here, we got too much white over here, we can go into our crop tool. Crop it down even smaller. Didn't save correctly. So then you would hit done. Now, one thing I have noticed with the masking here is you still get these harsh lines. So let's go back to our brush tool. We're on black. Make sure you have the mask selected. Now we're on black. We have full opacity on a soft edge. And if you zoom in real tight, it still leaves a little bit of an edge there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. If we turn off the background layer and have a white, now I'm sure Adobe will fix that in a future release. But for now, it's kind of annoying that you can't get fully rid of that. So let's go ahead and finish up this here. We'll change our brush size. I'm going to just leave a soft edge. Now this is our clone layer, so that's normal. A little bit softer of an edge. And if you zoom in real tight, you'll notice we have these little pillars that were from the sidewalk. So let's say we wanted to get rid of those. We can go back to our clone layer. Now to move the layers, you just click and drag it up. So we'll put the clone layer on top of our sidewalk layer. Now that won't affect the log, but this way it hits all layers below. So if we go back here, and we can actually try the spot healing brush again, zoom in real tight. Find with the spot healing brush, you do have to do it in little sections. So we'll start right here, and you can see it. Slowly remove it, does a pretty good job, and then we'll do the pole right here, and then the pole right here. And if you go over it a couple of times, it'll do a pretty good job. And then we have this little post, so we'll go ahead and get rid of this guy. And if you don't like that it's not doing a good job, long press, get your clone tool out, resize your clone tool, press and hold the option here for your sampling area. Let's say we want to sample this, and we'll just sample that in right there. The sidewalk here, we'll do this. All right. Now this isn't a full composite, but I just wanted to show all of the different options you have available to you, and then how you would perform a composite image if you so wish. Move it around. You can actually invert the layer too, if you wanted to do that. Or if you wanted to flip it horizontally, you would click your resize tool, and you have your horizontal and your vertical, so you can flip it around if you wanted to. Flip it upside down. So we're going to just hit cancel on that. Now this is auto saving in the background. So if you have a cloud membership with Adobe, you could start your composites while you're on traveling, sitting in bed, sitting on the couch, and then it will be available to you when you get back to your desktop. In your home screen here, you'll see all of your cloud images here. Depending on your membership, you may have different storage capabilities. Now, I did do this one before, so I just wanted to show you how I did this one complete. And this would have been the final image on a full composite here. You see I added the shadow. I extended the shadow from the beach onto the sidewalk. Added a little burns on the edges here. I added some lightning adjustments and some levels. There is no curve adjustments on this, which I wish they would add. I wish the warp tool was available. I think that'd be easier to help you composite and get the images in the right shape that you want for your composite image. But that is all. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions on how to use the new app. I'm pretty impressed with the first go at it. I think as time goes on, it will get better and better. Again, I'm going to update this channel with lots of tips, so please feel free to subscribe and check out my Instagram pages in the links below.